want to go into this OMEC thing. It's going to be short, and then we can go into some question and answers. Question and answers. And I was telling the story about how somebody mailed me this mint coat in the mail with the tag on it, brand new. You know, brand new, back in 06. And it's ironically, when I was up in Baltimore, we met a brother that's a Native American, but what it is they had to fight to be recognized as Native Americans. Because they got something down in City Hall where they recognize all the Native Americans in the area. So this black group had to fight to be recognized as the Native Americans and stuff. But they won what they had to do, and they recognized. And so we was out of Botanica, and the guy was saying, look, you know, he was like, that fur coat, man, that's the very spiritual thing. So the whole thing that is, you remember when I think it started in the 80s with Bob Barker. He was protesting. It was in the Miss America or something pageant, or Miss Universe or one of those. And he started protesting furs. And then it snowballed. Now, this is a spiritual story because they got to the point where as they beat white people down so bad too, you don't even see white people in furs. You go to the airport, you might see an older white woman, and the only people you see in furs is black people. And I think it's based on I think it's a fear thing. They know they ain't gonna step to no sister and ask her about her fur coat. Might be a beat down. See what I'm saying? You see, or they might think, well, they don't know no better, or something. Whatever it is, you go to the airport. The only people you see in fur coats is black women. And rare, you might see a brother like this jacket here. But it's interesting here because you might see, every now and then you'll see a brother with one on, and you know they're not going to step to no brother. You know, then they start complimenting, oh, I like your coat. You see, like that. So, but what Native American was saying, you know, all the shamans wore the furs. You see, they wore the furs, and that's being one with the animal. You see, and so that's what Mitchell Gibson is talking about. When you eat an animal, how does this thing go? It's like a Kabbalistic scale. Right. So if you eat an animal, then they say that animal spirit can incarnate as a human in the next cycle. If a bull, you see, eats the grass, then the grass can incarnate as a bull in the next cycle. Now that might seem hard to grasp, but if you understand concepts of all this is an illusion, yes, and appearances, the apparent world, it's the world of appearances, but it's not necessarily the actual entity or energies that's actually permeating us, and that's what we're fighting against every day, is to find out that particular part of ourselves, you see, that we can't see. So in the what they call a magical universe, all these types of things can go on. Now take for instance, what they say here is that all we are is a bunch of planets and solar systems bumping around out here that on this plane appears to be a human. So your soul has its own solar system. The problem we have is we're so locked into our personality till we can't even get to the point where as we are a solar system or a planetary system and all this cosmic stuff in which we really are, because we are trapped in our personalities. You see what I'm saying? And so in order to rise up, you got to take off layers of these personalities. And until you get back to that cosmic substance that you really are. But too many times, too often by us in the human experience, we got locked and imprisoned into this particular personality. So now I look and I say, well, you know what? no person's behavior has anything to do with what that person really is and what spiritual path that person really is, because ultimately we're cosmic molecules.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You see, and we've been trapped in, and so the later day religions, unlike, which is piggybacking on what we were talking about before, unlike the ancient religions ultimately, the goal was to get back to that essence on what you were before you incarnated down here. The later day religions, to enslave people,
yes,
they started focusing on the personality, moralism. Don't do this, don't do that. You see. Now, Charles Finch said something years ago. This was in the 80s. He said the Egyptians didn't look at animals as being subordinate. They said that the animals were equal to them. And I had problems with that, because that's the ego. Until I got some cats.
Oh, yeah.
Now, my cats live outside. I don't have the cats in the house. But I got some cats. And these cats went from a variation of different color cats into all black cats. So we got mostly all black cats. And then I thought about what he's saying by just looking at them. And I said, you know, these cats are the gods. These cats are the gods. I said, you know, you got the goddess Bass, Sekhmet, Pashet, and these particular, you know. And in Islam, they would call it the 99 attributes. You see what I'm saying? You know. And I'm looking at these cats, and it finally dawned on me after 4 years of feeding them, or 5 years of feeding them. I said, wait a minute. This cat gets 2 meals a day. And if you wanted 3, they'll be getting 3, but they're not like dogs now. Not like dogs. A dog's behavior is the same as a male's behavior. I'm not talking about men or dogs, that kind of thing. I'm not talking about that. But there's the cats, you think female. And dogs, you think male. Now the dogs, they will eat everything you put out there in one setting. And as long as you put it out there, them dogs will eat it. The cats, you know, they'll eat, then they'll get full, and then they'll eat again. So they average about 2 meals a day. We, you know, when we first got it, we was getting them, just feeding them all times of night and stuff like that. And the food, and the possums and all that was coming and eating the food. You see, so you tell I'm down south. I don't know if you all even see possums up here. Okay, so, and after about 4 years of eating, these cats eat, I said, you know what, these are the gods. I said, we feed them twice a day. Only for the sake of their cats. They don't do no work. We can't say they can train a CNI dog. They got dogs pulling carts. They got dogs pulling sleds. They got police dogs sniffing out dope. You see, but when it comes to a cat is like a black person said, when I feel like it.
Right.
Especially after we got out of slavery, look. When I feel like it. You know, I might defy you in what you're saying, just a simple fact that based on how I feel today.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? You know, a guy said, you know, I go to work, go on a break. He said, I'm going back to the work off the break. He said, wait a minute, I'm going to take 2 breaks. Nigga said, I'm going to take me another break. These cats, I'm looking, I said, oh my God, these are the gods. They lay around and we feed them and they run us. Only for the sake of being cats. Nothing else. It's not like they got an attribute. You see what I'm saying? And these are outside cats. So we don't touch them. See, if you get a cat and you touch them and start rubbing them, you'll domesticate them. And they won't be able to live outside anymore. So you don't touch them, you just let them be. You see, you let them be. But the only thing that's domesticated about them is they got their 3 hearts in a cot. You see what I'm saying? But the point about it, I'm looking, I'm going, oh, I get it now. These are the deities. These are the deities, and these deities are higher than the deities we worship. Because when we worship the deities we worship, we want something from them. We don't want nothing from them cats, but they do provide a service. We haven't seen a rat, a mouse, since 06. You see, and what I was saying was that was the essence on what Charles French was saying about we are one with the animals. We didn't look at ourselves as being above. And in so many words, if we're in a universe that contains all of this stuff, you see, it's an ecological system. We just have certain things that we do. And so we might say we are superior, but we're not superior for the simple fact what we're supposed to be doing, we're not even doing. We don't even live up to the potential.
Exactly.
You see, we got to have a plan B. Because whatever you was going to be when you was a child, you are not that now. What you thought you was going to be as a child, you ain't that now. You see what I'm saying? You got to have a plan B. So my point here is we function the least of the entire ecological nature. Everything else fulfills its purpose. Here go again, except that mysterious cat. We still trying to find out what the hell he is for.
Exactly.
And that's why the Egyptians used to feed them and domesticate them. You see, and they trace the origin based on DNA. They trace the origins of all domesticated cats back to Hemmitt. You see what I'm saying? So it's a mysterious. It's a mysterious thing. And then it gets to the point that they communicate. Now, our cats is a little. Our cats will start to communicate when they know the food, that bag of Friskies, what's that other one?
Kibbles and bits.
No, the other is another one. Purina, whatever the thing is. When that bag gets low, they'll start communicating. They will send signals to Linda. Like, hey, look now, hey. But how would they know that the bag is getting low? The bag is inside of the house.
Sure.
They know, that means that they are on a higher plane.
Right.
They are on a higher plane.
Right.
So when that food is getting low, they start signaling. Now, it's interesting here, because Linda lived in D.C. So she moved in with her sister before she came to Atlanta. And so, what she did, she moved in with her sister. The sister had a little dog that was old. So she said, well, I'm going to move. She said, well, the sister said, well, you can come in and you can take care of the dog because I work at I work a certain hours and this dog needs care. She said, you can take care of the dog, try to help me out. The dog came to her and said, look, listen to me good. See, there's a whole communication. Remember the guy that had the tigers and the lions and all that shit?
Right.
Up here, and he said they could talk to him?
Right.
So that whole Beastmaster thing is real. Dog came to Linda and said, look, this is the deal. You are here because of me. Take care of me. She said, don't be caught. Because when I leave, you better have plans to be someplace else. Because after I leave, your sister ain't having it. You see. She said, so, whatever the deal here is, and I know the sister asked you to come in and help, because you were staying someplace else. But you either better go back there or you better go someplace else. Because you are here because of me, and when I leave in a couple of months, you see what I'm saying, you better make the way to have your path. You see what I'm saying, or whatever the deal was.
Right.
And so and it was spiritual because she moved to Atlanta with me. But the key was the dog talked to her and told her what time it was. So now we got these cats, and the cats, they don't really communicate. They do. Sometimes you'll hear something like, look out the door. And you look out the door and they standing there ready to get fed. So that's the first level of communication that, and then you might ask yourself, how did the Africans live with them lions?
Right.
and all them dangerous animals and never was prey.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? That's because they had a communication. You see, they had a communication. So we are the true beast masters. You see, and the PBS used to run that damn show every month for years. So, but the key here is not PBS, TBS, Turner Broadcasting. But the key here is this is also showing this whole concept that if you're looking at us being a group of molecules or a group of your soul as a solar system, you see, then you'll find out that anything is possible. And like Mitchell Gibson says, oh yeah, Harry Potter is a true entity now. You see. Now if you don't know anything about magic, first of all, for the person to perceive and to conceive the concept of Harry Potter was probably a transmission in the first place. It was a channel.
Right.
So that it meant that it was an archetype that existed outside of the physical. Then when they made it into a physical book and then the physical movie, it enhanced it. Give me some tissue or something when they get it. Oh, no, this ain't gonna work right here. That's a Kleenex. I need something to wipe with. This could go for the snot, but no, that ain't gonna be it either. Buffalo wings. You get some, either a towel or a paper napkin. Solid. You get some solid or something else. But anyway,
you get a board, right? With a white board?
No, I need some tissue. A napkin.
There's tissue right here. No,
that's a little thicker. That's well. I guess this will work for now. So anyway, where was I?
About the communication with the mind.
Yeah, and so the concept here now is we're supposed to be getting back to that cosmic being of what we are, which is actually a solar system. You say, well, how can one soul be a solar? Well, you got 160 chakras.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? You got cells, you got all this type of stuff, and that itself is actually a microcosm of the Milky Way, because that's the galaxy we live in. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so the concept here is getting back to that, but we're still trying to act human, and trying to act human. Now, let me explain what I'm talking about here. I know some people that used to make all kind of money in the 80s and in the early 90s. And then they went through a void. Something shifted. Maybe something was activated in them. Okay? So as a result, the methodology that they used to use in the 80s is a dimension away. They have gone to a whole nother cycle. You see what I'm saying? Or gone through a whole nother cycle, and all of a sudden they can't make no money. Because they have acclimated themselves into the cycle that they are in. And what is needed, they need to find out what it is that's applying to the energy, you see what I'm saying, that will be conducive for me in this particular cycle. You see? So it's the same thing with outmoded knowledge. We got people, you first come in, you learn the history. You see what I'm saying? Then we supposed to be going to greater knowledge, because the history was just to tell you who you were that was lost. You see?
Exactly.
Now we are still saying it's knowledge, but we got people that's stuck. You see what I'm saying? On the first level. You see? In the first level and stuff like that, then they start going crazy, or they got people getting over on them. You see? Because now we got people that's pimping, people with the same pimp game with the Hemmitt. You see what I'm saying? You see? Or whatever type thing. But what it is, it was a cycle, and we have to not be pleased with the information that we have. We got to keep going. And that's the whole thing. He's there at your event to infiltrate your event, to put you on the terrorist watch list.
Yeah.
You see? Put you on the terrorist watch list. You see? And all of this, because there's whole kind of new laws now. You know, all kind of new laws. And so this is so. But my point here is, here we go again, because we are still pondering to these outmoded systems. It's there now for mostly vanity. You see what I'm saying? For mostly vanity. So we have to go on. We have to keep moving. You see what I'm saying? We can't just fall prey to outmoded systems and outmoded groups. In these particular days right now, you got another human being you following. You're just the biggest fool ever.
Exactly.
If you can read, now I can see if you are illiterate. You need somebody to translate your life for you. But if you can read, there's no reason to be in no group. You know what I'm saying? Even if you're a staunch Christian, you got a Bible at home. You see what I'm saying? Interpret it yourself. If God is everything and everywhere, you see, so it's just interesting on how things is going. But here goes again, going back to this thing. The universe, the solar systems, and the cosmos is changing. They found a blue star the other day with a new universe. Stuff is changing each day. They got a new universe that they just found the other week. It's old, but it's new to them. But it just became visible. So obviously there's some stuff that's changing, but what's happening to us is our personalities is getting in the way. We're still running after trying to modify our personalities, and our personalities is something that's unreal. It's just a series of appearances that's taking form, you see what I'm saying, based on this realm needs forms to identify itself as being real. But it's not real. You see. So there's so many things. And so in so many words, it means that basically, if you just give up on most things that you hold dear to you, you'll find a whole nother universe there. You see.
Sure.
You know, I was talking about Linda. Now Linda, like I said, I cleaned up a week and a half when she moved down to Atlanta. She came in and cleaned up for 3 months. You see. So a man's cleaning is different than a woman's cleaning. My thing is, well, hell, I didn't know I was supposed to get that dust up under that couch. You see what I'm saying? And all. You don't see it. The man be like, well, you can't see it. Ain't no even me going up under there. You see. But then again, come to find out, she's notorious for cleaning houses and throwing away all the people's shit. So stuff just come up missing. But the concept here is, when you eliminate the clutter and eliminate the stuff from around you, you'll find new avenues. So it was a spiritual thing.
Yes.
You see, it was a spiritual thing. If you eliminate new avenues, you see. And so that's what that whole thing about. Even Farrakhan said that one time. You know, hey, a man will be content with a room and a bed if his woman up on top of the bed. But she'll come in there and say, wait a minute, we got to broaden our horizons. She can make you move out. And that's when you find whatever you've expanded, that's when you get the benefit from it. The same thing with this particular knowledge. We get trapped in these groups. And they say, what is insanity? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again. You see, that's what insanity is. You see. And so we get into these particular routines. Meanwhile, there's things that's changing around us, and we are suffering, and we don't know, hey, man, you went someplace else a couple of years ago, and you don't know, you see, that you're on that road to travel. You still stuck on the side of the road, thinking it's 1974. You see, so this is how these things go, how these things go. So you must push yourself for the unknown, the strange. You see, because the strange and the unknown is just ignorance. It's fear. You see, so it's interesting. I want to go into this particular part. We're gonna spit this up. Since we got that one for the present. Y'all right? We're gonna spit this old going on. I guess. Well, I guess I'm up north where you can't turn down heat once it get cold. I guess, no, I'm gonna go now, because when we turn it down, it's gonna be 0 degrees in a couple of minutes. So I guess I gotta suffer through this. It's gonna be 60 degrees on Wednesday in Atlanta. You see, so. Ashe. Okay, we'll do a little libation. He got the drums and stuff. And then we'll go to this one part. Okay, so like I said, we're gonna give a shout out to old Shosi. Okay. Ashe. Fallen family. We're gonna give a shout out to our brother Martin Luther King. Like I said yesterday, they had the Nation of Islam had a debate on cable TV down there with SCLC. I talked about this yesterday. But and SCLC, so they had the guy. SCLC is the Southern Christian Leadership Conference that was started by Martin Luther King. Yes. So they had a brother in there, and I was an Elijah Muhammad man, so I talked shit about Martin Luther King too. But this guy was there, and from the SCLC, and the brother from the Nation and all this, we need to separate, we need to do this, we need to do that. So what happened was, the SCLC brother said, look, he said, I see Farrakhan traveling all over the world. He said, let me let you in on a little bit of history. He said, before desegregation, you couldn't just jump on a plane and go all over the world if you were black. He said, that was segregated. He said, so you need to thank Martin Luther King. Farrakhan needs to thank Martin Luther King for opening that part up. You see what I'm saying? And you got to realize what's going on. And then it all came back to me. I said, look, when I started going to these metaphysical bookstores down south, they opened up these things. They treated me with open arms. These white people, man, they would be waiting for me to come up in there. So now, let's say it would have been 40 years before, I wouldn't have been allowed in the place.
That's right.
Then I come to New York, go to the Magical Child, go to Enchantment, and get treated like a doggone criminal. You see, get treated like a criminal. You see, and from the 90s, we used to go to the Magical Child. A guy didn't even want to show me some stuff in the case one time. You see what I'm saying? Want to buy a book, the guy questioning stuff, because so the point I'm trying to make here was, had these things not been opened up, you see, I wouldn't have been able to do those particular things. So you have to think back sometime historically, just to see what was going on to get us to a certain point. So we know that Martin Luther King is also Saint Martin, and Saint Martin is a form of a legba, as we talked about yesterday. And a legba, like I said, he opens the way, but he doesn't necessarily go to the promised land. Shango and Ogun are the warriors that do that. You see, but he opens the gate. You see. Same thing with the Moses thing before it became historical. He opened the gate, and then Aaron and all of them took the people into the promised land. These are metaphysical terms that was historicalized, but these are concepts that they're talking about that happen in everyday life. You see, like that. You see, so there's always these people that open the gate, but their job is not necessarily to be the fulfillment. So Martin Luther King was that person. He opened the gate. You see what I'm saying? But we fulfill that in the particular aspect. We enjoyed certain freedoms, not necessarily that we wanted to live around white folks, for the simple fact the civil rights movement wasn't about integration into other communities.
That's right.
Now we took the ball and ran with it. You see what I'm saying? But the point about it here is, it was about not having those doors closed just for a little type of thing. And like I said, I would go, man, these people would see me coming. It's like, we going to England, you want us to bring you some stuff back? He go to the list of stuff we going over to get. I'm like, yeah, give me some of that, they'll jump on a plane, go to England, and bring me some stuff back. And these are people from the South. Yep. I'm riding around in a guy in all black, he's chaos magician. He got on all black and stuff. And he said, yeah, you know, I used to be one of the junior representatives of the Ku Klux Klan back in the day. And I said, I get it. That was a part of the culture. It wasn't necessarily that you was a hater. It was a part. It was just like going to church. You was down south. You supposed to be in the Klan. He was like, yeah, I was a junior member. And he said, let me tell you something. He opened up a big thing of pills. He said, you all go to jail for your drugs. He said, but what you don't realize, there's all kind of legal drugs you can get. You see what I'm saying? That you can get to get you just as high as anything else, and it's totally legal. You know, so, but it was just interesting here. I'm riding around in the car with this guy. This is years later, and he used to be a junior member of the Ku Klux Klan. Let me show you another thing. I was working in Columbia, South Carolina, in a record store. It's called Peaches. I was in college. This white boy would come, and he would have these jokes for me. And that would be funny. I said, but your little jokes is a little corny. I said, what I need for you is what black people are into. You need to give me some ethnic jokes. You know, you need to give me some ethnic jokes. The jokes that you wouldn't say, that's the ones we want, because that's the one the black community likes. You know what I'm saying? You know, what is it? What has 6 legs and go hold-it-do. 3 black men running to the elevator. That kind of stuff. You know, Kunta Kinte translated Willie Washington. You see. So, he started giving me these good ones. My brother was getting offered some jobs that they didn't have black people to work on. He graduated college, and he was working in this little small town on some job, and he would get them, and we'd give them to the black community, and people fall out down. So I said, that's what you need to give me, some of them jokes like that. You know, because we had the ones about the black man, Chinese man, and the white man. You see, and this cat loved me to death. And he said, look, I got a new job, I'm going to have to quit. I got a new job in my profession. But I want you to come to this party. You know, so I said, I want you to come to this party. I said, well, too bad, man, I'm going to be working that night. Or what have you. And the white people in the store was like, we baffled. This guy is in love with you. I'm saying, well, what's the big deal? You're not talking about no gay stuff. They said, no, this guy loves you. And I said, so what's the big deal? They said, that guy there is the top. He is the top youth of the South Carolina Columbia branch of the Ku Klux Klan.
Let me get you to pause for like 50.
The lecturer was, I wasn't even conscious back then. This is like close to 30 years ago. You see what I'm saying? But he's picked something up in my essence, what my potential would be or whatever. And it shook him to the core. And they were like, man, that guy there, it wasn't like the other guy told me years later. I used to be, about 40 years ago, the junior member of the Ku Klux Klan. They were saying that this guy was like the heir. At that particular time, this was in the 80s. He was like the heir to be the next Grand Master. You see what I'm saying? He was in his mid-20s. He was the heir to be the next Grand. And this cat loved me to death. But what it was is, like you're saying about the whole Michael Jordan thing, that's how they do them, because they don't consider them black. Yeah. Right. They consider them a hero or something. But whatever it was with me, it was some type of spiritual thing. I wasn't even aware of it at the time. You see, I wasn't even aware of it at the time. And it was amazing. And they were so scared to doing the relationship with me and this guy coming to work. He worked in the store about 3 years. But no, he worked in the store about 6 months. And obviously this guy must have was fearful and notorious. Because during the time of the relationship he worked in the store, none of the other white people had enough guts to tell me. That's how afraid they were of this guy. Only when he announced he was leaving and on his last day to work, they told me. You see, they told me. So it's just interesting how things go. On how things go and all. But then again, on the other hand, there's things that's happening behind the scenes. Yes. You see, there's things that's happening behind the scenes, which is very interesting. Now, I want to get into this particular part. I was supposed to say this. I was supposed to go into this last night. Now, ironically, it was in New York about 5 years ago when this mystery first came down. The first person to break part of the mystery, because the Olmecs are a mystery. Yes, the Olmecs are a mystery. They left no writing. You see what I'm saying? And what we can gather. Now, you can say that, if you want to study Olmec culture, study Mayan culture.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
It's in a nutshell.
There it is.
Right. That was the human aspect of it. What happened, the brother Rudra, I think, was at the lecture he did, the first lecture he did here. He said, the reason why we don't know nothing about the Olmecs, and we got these big heads, and I guess you can, it's getting, let me know when they get a little cold. And all, yeah. And they got these big heads. Down in Mexico, what parts of South America, what?
Brazil.
And so they don't have any writing, and it's still a great mystery. He said, you getting cold or somebody getting cold?
Yeah.
No, we can close that now. I'll be all right. Cause because like I said, the temperature just don't drop. That's just some southern stuff. You see what I'm saying? When I first came, when I was first coming up here, when I like I said, I spent the summer down here in 1970. Me and my 3 brothers and my mother. All I know is we had to fight. Every day there was a new. I made the mistake because back then I used to fight. And I made the mistake of punching this nigga in the face. And I think I was like about 9 years old. So every day we was in Bed-Stuy. So every day they have a new brother standing on the front porch, waiting for me to come out. And he would follow me around till about 12 o'clock when they had them sprinklers used to get in the park, and they had them sprinklers. And I think they would cut on that. He would follow me around till about the time those sprinklers, and then I'd have to go and hit him in the face and beat him up because I wanted to go into the sprinklers. You see, and this happened the whole summer. The whole summer. So that was probably when I started coming back to New York in the 90s. I'd be like, what's the temperature like today? And it's like October, November. They looking at me like, why do you want to know? Well, I said, I want to know what I can, how to dress. Yeah. It was like, wait a minute, hold on, man. Hey, man, you up north. What's this cold? It's cold. Ain't no, you talking about May or something? Because in Atlanta, it can be freezing one day. Just wait 3 days. It's gonna be warm. It's gonna be almost overbearing. You see what I'm saying and all. So we got to have 2 different coats and stuff. A light coat. You see what I'm saying? A light leather for This is in January. You see, and a heavy coat for when it gets cold and stuff like that and all. But so I'm kind of misconstruing things, trying to tell you to open up a damn window and so we can close this. You see, y'all got don't mind me on that. I'm thinking I'm in Atlanta. Okay, so what Rudra broke, he said, when we see the Olmecs and we see those heads we don't know much about, he said that was a time when the gods used to rule. You see, when the gods used to rule. So in Egypt, when they was asking Manetho's history, he was given to Philadelphus, what they call it?
The list of kings.
The list of kings. He said we had so many pharaohs in the dynastic period, which was 3,000 years, and we had another one in the pre-dynastic period, which was about 8,000 years in the pre-dynastic. He said, so we're talking about roughly about 11,000 years. He said, well, who used to rule and what used to be that way? Who used to rule before then? He said that's when a whole bunch of gods used to rule. But the gods is us prior to us falling deeper and deeper into the physical plane.
That's right.
So it would be Atlantis.
Okay.
I like that.
You see, it would be Atlantis. That's when the gods. So when you hear Isis and Osiris, what made them gods and different from you? That's a part that when they were in Atlantis or Lemuria. They got several names for these particular things. And the only reason why they don't really play it up is because they know, and the European knows that he wasn't around at that time. You see. But, so they always give you the physical destruction of Atlantis, but this is some stuff pre-physical days. But, the key here is, if the Olmecs were the gods, and this guy here, let me get up. This guy here, David Hatcher Childress, got a book out. Let me show you. Let me see the name of his book. He made an observation. He wrote a book on the Olmecs. It's one of the few books that deals with a more of a. Let me see. It's another book. This is a Nexus magazine, but they're reviewing his book, so it's best to get the book. This is February 08. The Mystery of the Olmec Civilization by David Hatcher, Hatcher, Childress, Childress, David Hatcher Childress. The name of his book, is called. It's got a book on Adventures Unlimited. So you can go online to www.adventuresunlimitedpress.com. AdventuresUnlimitedPress.com. But let me get the name of the book. It's in the back of the book. This David Hatcher Childress has this book out on the Olmecs. It's one of the few books that was written outside of an archaeological standpoint of view. Most of the people give you the archaeological standpoint of the view, and also, but it's a book. That's his name. It's called the Olmecs. And I was trying to get the name of the book, but just the only thing. A lot of times you just need the actual. You need the actual just the title of the author of the title. So in this particular case, David Hatcher Childress. But he made an observation. Now what happened was how the second part of this mystery was broken. We knew that they were the gods. Second part of the mystery was broken was this. I did a lecture on the 5th of December in Birmingham, Alabama. Real magical city, because they got a 10-foot mural in Egypt. Let's put it this way, all of the Cecil B. DeMille's and anybody that does anything on Egypt as far as the scenery, they have to access this guy's picture. His name is Sir Edwin Porter. And the name of the picture is called Israel in Egypt. But what it was this: he made this 10-foot long picture of the Temple of Luxor with all the paint still on it. He made it in the realm of, in the time before the erosion. It would be the actual time when the actual pharaohs was ruling. So he made this big picture of the pharaoh's procession, where they got the pharaoh, they got him, and he's going into the temple, and they got all these people in this procession. So he got back to England, and at that time it was in the 1800s. And he was trying to sell the picture. And the guy offered him an enormous amount of money for the picture. But the guy told him he had to paint the Israelites in the picture. You see what I'm saying? Being slaves. So he put a little piece in there, but it wasn't enough to cover up what he was really trying to convey. So the name of the picture is called Israel in Egypt by Sir Edwin Porter. He even got served because of the picture. Knighted.
What's it called?
It's called Israel in Egypt by Sir Edwin Porter. It's about a 10-foot long picture. Huge. It sits in the Birmingham Museum in Birmingham, England. Now we get Birmingham, Alabama, and they call it the Magical City. Now, Birmingham was supposed to be the same metropolis as Atlanta and even bigger. It was supposed to be the city of the South. Atlanta ended up being that. Birmingham was supposed to be bigger because Atlanta don't have no water. It's landlocked. Georgia, most of Georgia is landlocked. It has a river run through it. Has a river run through it. And it used to be a steel mill town. So Atlanta is more of a hotel and a convention town. You see what I'm saying? It was going to be a steel town. It was going to be like Pittsburgh. You see. They were going to build it. See, this is the deal about Atlanta now. Atlanta, after the Civil War, the financiers of New York said, we going down south and we going to build a New York in the south. Not going to be New York, it's going to be different. But it's going to be a New York in the south. So they picked Atlanta, they picked Birmingham, and they was putting in this northern money. And so the first thing they had to do, they said, well, let's wait, because they had it on hold because these was northerners and said, well, let's wait a couple of years until this whole civil rights thing get done. They said, because we see these niggas brewing up some stuff. They getting ready to get, like Richard Pryor said, they said, what y'all niggas waiting for in the 50s? We're waiting for the 60s. We're going to put your bitch in the 60s. So they were like, well, wait until, and then we're going to pour in the money. We're going to start building a New York. It wouldn't be like New York as far as naturally, but they was going to build it with northern money. So what happened with Birmingham was slated to be even bigger than Atlanta. But the Bull Connor shit went down, and all the racist stuff when the Bull Connor was beating people over the head, and all your pictures of the dogs and stuff like that, and it squashed it.
Yep.
And they took all the rest of the money and said, well, let's just settle on Atlanta. And then in the 90s, they started to do that with Charlotte. You see what I'm saying? Like that. Like that. But it was a magical city, Birmingham, because of this picture in the Birmingham Museum from the 1800s. You see what I'm saying? In the 1800s. So, they, in the 1904, they built a big statue of Vulcan. And people say, man, they got the statue of Vulcan. I said, did you ever try to study what Vulcan is? We don't know what Vulcan is. So I studied Vulcan, and Vulcan is the god of metal. The god of metal. So I said, well, that makes sense because it's a steel mill town. So they took this god Vulcan, they built this statue of Vulcan, and he got nappy hair. And they aired it at the 1904 World's Fair, and then after the World's Fair, they brought it to Birmingham. So I was like, wait a minute, this is the god of metal. I said, oh, this is Ogun. So I did a whole thing. I went on the 5th to do a whole thing on Vulcan and Ogun. So Ogun said, well, you doing this for me, let me reward you with something. So the book, this is a book that I had since 2008, and it fell up on this page. And this guy David Hatcher Childress makes an observation that he in England used to play soccer with a bunch of Nigerians. He said, and he got the aspect of the phenotype of the Olmec heads being Nigerians, and then all of the archaeological community agreed. It is the West African. It could be, but Nigeria could be, if you take it out of the modern sense, it could be Ghana, it could be the Congo, it could be the Dogon, but the Nigerian has got the thickest features.
That's right.
You see. And that's the prototype. That was the kingdom of Dahomey and all that, So, when I read this, then Ogun said, I put it together. You got the first part of 95, but Ruth said that was the gods. And now they're identifying the people as Nigerians, but this was a time when it wasn't a physical world, but they identified it with the Nigerians, so who are they talking about? Okay, they identified the Olmec heads as Nigerian or West African. That's the first part. But you've already identified that the Olmecs were the gods that live in a pre-physical time, and they're gods. So who are the Nigerian gods?
We are.
The Orishas. No, the Orishas. Somebody must agree. The reason why I know that?
Affirmation.
The reason why I know that?
Affirmation, right?
They, I don't know if they don't have it. You don't have that TV one up here, do you?
Yeah, we do.
And they got this show called Unsung.
Right.
Yes.
So we recorded the Unsung on Phyllis Hyman, and we was watching the Phyllis Hyman documentary, and she came in and kicked the, you know, like we got a big speaker, and they got the little phone screen that they have on the speaker. She kicked the phone screen off, it flew across the room. And she said, you know, I just want to be recognized. You know, hey, I'm here. You see, so when that kind of thing happens, that's the God. That's why a lot of times when if some food fall on the floor, you're supposed to leave it for a minute. Because that's them. They will knock it out the bag if it's something they like. If it's something they like. You see. You know, and then old Shun sometimes, she would just come and just take a ring off a person's finger and it would disappear in thin air. You see, she was famous for that. You see. So, the gods of that area were the Orishas. You see. So the Olmecs is actually the Orishas. You see. And like we said again, in India there's 7 holy rishas. There's 7 African powers. There's 7 holy rishas. So how do you get the 7 African powers called the Orishas? Then in India you got the 7 holy rishas of the Pleiades. That's 7 African powers. But there's an 8th one, Oshosi, which is Orion the Hunter. And Orion the Hunter, with his dog, is the dog star. They say that the 7 holy Orishas and Orion the Hunter, they are connected. So Oshosi was Orion the Hunter, and there's the 7 holy Orishas of the Pleiades and Orion the Hunter. In the middle of Orion is the star Sirius. To show you how this thing breaks down. Now, in this Oshosi aspect, if he's Orion in Egypt is Osiris, or Osar. Now, in 2000, because this Oshosi thing, he fought to come through the last 2 months. You see. He's come up now and come to find out that Oshosi was the god that they took so many people from his village in Africa till his legend died out. And they know very little about Oshosi on the continent, but all Oshosi stuff is based on in the West. Those Africans that they took, you see, they kept Oshosi in the West. And it's about like our situation, whereas they took us from Africa, the people know very little of us as identification. We not them. And we look back and say, I ain't them Africans. You see? And they said, we ain't them niggas there. You see? And so, that's that whole story of Oshosi. Now the key here is Oshosi is Orion. Like Osiris is Orion. Now there's a guy by the name of, I talk about him, Dan Winters. You can get some of his stuff on the internet. And all, but they kicked him. He's one of the few people got kicked out of the country for giving a certain amount of knowledge. Yeah. White boy. Few many white people got kicked out of the country. First they tried to sue and say he plagiarized somebody's stuff.
I got his book. He was going off.
Yeah.
Talking about the blood and everything.
All that.
Going off.
Then they said, no, you got to go. Fuck that. You see? Yeah. So they got white people that kicked out the country. They got Philip Agee, which was that guy was the CIA agent. Yeah. They kicked him out. I think they kicked your boy out that did Iceman Inheritance.
Michael Crichton. Bradley, yeah.
Michael Bradley.
Yeah.
So you got to go. You know, talk shit about us. He moved to Canada. So they will kick you out of the country. Don't let nobody fool you. You know, it ain't no land of freedom. It's a land of what you can get away with. You see, so, but in his book in the 2000, I think, and this what got him kicked out. He kept saying, there's a black hole in the heart of Orion. In the heart of the Orion star system, there's a black hole. And in this black hole, it's either we getting sucked into it or something is being birthed from it. You see, then all of a sudden this Oshosi cat comes through. And Oshosi really just represents, if you look at it as an energy, it represents us supplanted in a new world and forgotten in the old world. And sometimes forgotten in the old world, it's kind of hard to not know who the African Americans is, because that's the template for the whole planet. They're going to show somebody black, they're going to show African American around the world. We celebrate it that way. It's not talking about that. It's talking about they don't recognize you as a culture and customs that they are identified with. Because we are foreign. You see, we are foreign. You see what I'm saying? You see, so that whole Oshosi thing, here goes again, based on this black hole in the heart of Orion, then this Oshosi shows up. You see what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden, he's sitting at the table as the eighth Orisha. As the eighth Orisha, I'm telling you, there's a debt. See, they got people, in Italy, they got tarot card companies, and they celebrate us. So they got an African American tarot sold in Italy. The Llewellyn Book Company here just picked it up. It's been out about 2-3 years. They got a Cleopatra tarot. They got a Ramesses tarot. You see, and they got Afro-Brazilian tarot. Right. But they got one company. Now that's a company that creates tarot cards for everybody. But there's one company. There's one company in Italy. I think it's in Italy. And the only thing they create one tarot deck. It's called the Lucame tarot deck. And in this tarot deck, if you get it, it tells stories of stuff that's happening in the future. And so they got Oshosi sitting at the table with all the other 7 Orishas. And like I said, they drinking from this skull some kind of beer or some kind of liquor or something. And then they got Obatala turning up the bottle to his head, which he don't supposed to do. Because Obatala, whenever he get drunk, he create retarded children. Now, it's ironic, because the retarded children might not necessarily mean retarded, you know, that kind, but it could also just mean deficient. Because there was a Bible out down in Virginia. He wasn't a racist because he had a group of black people and he had a group of white people in the same class. So you can't say that if you were racist, you wouldn't have white people in your class.
Exactly. Right.
So whenever they would give the reading or who their head was, he would tell all the white people, your head is Obatala. But why our head can only be Obatala? And this is and this guy is good. This guy got a he had a box coming in this country with a spirit in it that talks. Some spirit. He couldn't get it through customs. If you ever heard me talking in the London tape, there's a brother that opened for me named Israel. Now Israel is a king in Nigeria. His father was over a little small village. And he's a king over there. And he might go visit him once a year, but he lives in England. He don't want to live in Nigeria. He don't want to live in Nigeria. He got one of those heads, a box with a talking head in it. That talk, it's a spirit that talk to you. He got one in Nigeria. So this brother in Virginia is real hooked up. So when he said all of y'all Obatala, he's not talking. He means your deficiency. You see, your deficiency. As far as, not having a certain amount of melanin or something. you know, or something like that. So that's very interesting on that particular part that about this about these Europeans and all of them being the children of Obatala. Mm-hmm. But in this particular deck, the Lucamate deck, they got Obatala chugging down a bottle, and they make sure the other ones just got their little glasses, and they dipping this whatever this beer something out of a big skull, and let Buzz at the head of the table. But in this particular one, they give Obatala a bottle. They're like, well, you ain't been able to drink for so many years, so we're gonna give you the big fifth. You see what I'm saying? He's chugging it down too, and all. So my point, but the point I'm trying to make here is the Lucamate deck is talking about. The Lucamate is a Brazilian type outfit as far as the Candomblé or whatever, and what they might be saying here is, with Obatala chugging down that liquor, is what became of us. You see what I'm saying? Us being a bunch of lushes and stuff, or drunks, because they do have the Temple of Borobudur. And I got the book of Temple of Borobudur, and it's got about 1,000 frames, but they got us on the temple, and that's in Java. And Java is an island off the coast of I think Thailand and Indonesia. And anyway, they got the Temple of Borobudur, look like a spaceship. And in there, they got us drinking liquor and playing blowing saxophones. Black people in that temple. They got Eugene Adams tape, you know, and I actually, and the thing about it was, I said, I gotta find a book with the layout of the Temple of Borobudur, and I found a big, thick book, and they wanted $80 for it used, and the Spirit said, you gonna get this book. So when I said, hell, I'm gonna pay the $80, and I went up to the counter to hand him the book, and he opened up the book and the binding broke. But the book was still together because the binding, you know, he said, well, I can't charge you $80 for this now. He said, so can you give me 30? I said, that's the Spirit. That's the Spirit and stuff like that. So this Lucamate deck got some stuff in there. It's called the Lucamate deck, and it's unbelievable and stuff. And
how do you spell that, Bob?
Lucama. The Lucamate deck. And yeah, it's unbelievable. And it got all kind of stuff in there to be studied. Because remember, the Tarot is it's a study system of the soul and the and the mystical surroundings, but it's also a divination system. So a lot of people talk about it, and when they find that they can't divine because they can't study, they give it up, and they don't go and study the actual cards and stuff that was going on, and stuff that's going on. So Obatala chugging back that liquor can mean a certain thing too. It can also mean that we don't necessarily have to deal with human concerns that would make someone inefficient. With them sitting around the table and all of them drinking, it means that, hey, this is now the return of the gods in the West, because they say it will rise in the West.
Yeah.
So when you get a chance to, if you can get this Lucamate deck, you got to go online and try to get it. And when you get it and stuff, just start studying the cards. Because it comes with a little book, and half the book is in Spanish, and then they got a little piece in English in the book. So you're going to have to basically, it's a picture window, and you basically going to have to just look. They give you a little bit of information on the actual cards, but you're going to have to really look and just to see what your spirit tells you, or what your spirit tells you on that particular thing.